Good afternoon. So you look quite fresh after the morning session. I will speak today about something that I believe is a pretty big problem that faces humanity, which has to do with technology disruption. As you know, technology is the #1 killer of work, jobs, but it's also the #1 creator of jobs. So it kills jobs and creates jobs. And this pulsing goes faster and faster and faster. We see that in US on the job statistics. The blue line shows the new advanced jobs, and the orange shows how many of them are filled. And what you can see that there is a growing gap. There is, in fact, by 2030, according to McKinsey, half of the jobs in Japan will be displaced, and a third of them in the United States will be displaced. We see that in education. We have to teach more with less time and less money. So the big questions that many of you and us are asking ourselves, how do you fill those gaps? Now, there is an alternative where we use machines. A good example is Elon Musk. He replaces humans with machines. It's the most advanced factory in the world, and also a very big failure. That's the scenario I don't believe in. AI-empowered machines will take over, not for us. Instead, we believe in something different, something more positive. And that's what I'm going to talk about today, which is enhanced humans. And the idea is to live in symbiotic relation with machines and stand on their shoulders rather than be subjugated. Now, the question is, how do you do that? Most of you have a phone. I see a lot of phones here in the public. And you have probably 40% of your extended cortex in that phone. The problem is, while you access this part in real time, the other one you access at the speed of thumb. I just see someone thumbing through the phone in the front here. So how do we shorten that distance? Now, there's something called EON neural lace, right? When you put the lace in your brain and so on. That, although that's exciting, it's going to probably take us at least 20 years to get there. So instead of that, we believe that augmented virtual reality will help us. Will help us to learn faster, and you see some examples here. Will help us to train people for various scenarios, and will help us to perform in industry better than we do today. And that's an interconnected environment from learning to training to performing. Now, this is not a small problem. There's 3 billion workers out there, and just 500 million of them have any access to technology today. There's 1.3 billion students that need this type of fast learning environment. In fact, according to Gartner, by 2020, half of the top 50,000 companies, a lot of them being German, will have implemented this type of augmented virtual reality. So, who's using this today? This is some of our customers that engage with us in this journey in industry. And why do they do it? They do it because they can reduce time for service technician training, for example, up to 92% using AR versus traditional book training, 63% for operators. But there's also a lot of university, academic institutions. Why do they do that? Because people learn faster, retain information longer, and can make better decisions. A lot of governments are engaged in this, more than 62 that we are working with for the moment to realize this Human 2.0 vision. Now, okay, so that sounds good, but what is they practically do? Here's a practical example from Exxon. They are using it for what we call low probability, high consequence scenarios, when the proverbial, something really bad happened and they can train in this environment. Another example is from the medical arena. This is an ophthalmology simulator that's used for training students in this environment. And what's unique about this is that you do things in this environment that you couldn't do in real life. Let me show an example. So I can inject various dysfunction into a patient, virtual patient, and then the student has to depict what's wrong with this specific patient. So I can expose him for many more pathologies that you can do in real life. Many other areas. I'm sure you're familiar with aircrafts and pre-check flight training. This is one of them. Or even something of a crisis that happens, like, for example, when a helicopter crashes down. So, on what do you do in this context? Now, to do all this, you need a technology. And I'll be geek with you for a couple of slides here. You need to get data in, and we are working with 120 different formats, CAD formats, PLM formats, MRI formats, GIS in native format. You need to bring it to life, and you need to publish it. So those are the key things that you need to do. And then once you do that, you need to agnostically publish this to 30, 40 different type of devices. And we have been working with this. We have been working with this platform in these 3 segments that does all that and practically takes you through the step from learning, training, to performing. Now, what type of challenges do we see when you go in the industry? There's challenges on onboarding. There's challenges of how time and quality is on training. We see things where we can address, for example, accelerating onboarding. That's an example where we have concrete metrics. Or how do you create content in a way that programmers can always do VR content, but how do you do it with people that know only PowerPoint? We have a solution for that, etc. So here's an example of how that is done. So you can use this in, for example, your phone. We have the world's largest library for learning, more than 5,000 man-years. You can then publish this content in VR, or you can publish this content on your laptop or tablet, or you can publish the same content to an AR environment, whether it's a phone or AR glasses. But what's a little bit interesting here is that we found a way of creating this content without going down to the game engines, staying on a high level, something that looks like this, like PowerPoint. I can teach any of you in less than half an hour how to create your own interactive AR, VR content. More than 40 million people have downloaded this type of solutions today, and accessed it by their phones. I'm not going to bore you with features. Here's some examples, though. This is a Temasek. This is a Polytechnique. They're using this in a big environment. The same content they're using agnostic in a medium environment, and then going all the way to your mobile phone. Here's another example. This is Volvo in Addis Ababa using this to train technicians in how a diesel engine has to be repaired. Now we have learned. Let's go to training. What do we do there? Of course, there's some challenges with training. Increased cost, low attention span. Our attention span has gone from 12 seconds to 8 seconds to a goldfish that has 9 seconds. We are going towards on the goldfish. So how can you do this? We save time. We know we can lower the cost, and we know we can reduce the risk. And nobody sleeps through a virtual training session, increasing engagement. Scalable. And here's an example of that. My time is short, so I'm not able to do everything here, but you can collaborate remotely from one location to the other. You can then engage in this training environment by doing. The teacher can anytime interject and help you. We track analytics, what you're doing when you're doing it. So every second, if you do the right thing, and we help you in this environment between the teacher and the student in a very efficient way. Okay, so the last example I'm going to talk about is AR Assist. So most companies either work with VR or AR or mobile. We happen to work interconnected, so the content can be propagated from one level to the other. So what kind of problems do you see? Productivity challenges, compliance traceability challenges. We also see device issues because devices are migrating. So what we've been able to do and prove is increase productivity, lower cost, reduce risk, improve traceability, better scalability, especially when you use mobile devices, and the ability to do what I call spatial annotations, as well as remote monitoring. Worker guidance, anchored objects and models, as well as task management, applying certain tasks to certain workers at one time. So how does that look? Let me show you a quick example of that. So here we are. This is a worker. He's going to the place. He has a tablet. That tablet is telling him where location. He's marking a location. He can then communicate with his boss in a remote location. The boss can assign a work that comes and pops up in his device at that specific location. And he can then do a number of check-ins that are validated. And he also identifies issues. The boss is then providing the right tools, and he's also seeing some hazards, takes note of that. Think about this as yellow stickers on a refrigerator where you apply those things. And then eventually, which I was supposed to do here, sorry, eventually when everything is said and done, then the worker that is repairing the whole thing is coming in and addressing the issues. In this case, we use a headset. So knowledge injection when you need it, as you need it. A concrete example of that is Singapore Airport. 600 workers are using our technology and solutions to inject knowledge when you need it, as you need it, and also to help communicate between the headquarters and give suggestions to actions and improvements. And we also have a technology, See What I See, in order to address those problems. Okay, so summary. Platform, what's the difference between using a platform versus using a project approach? So there's two ways to do this. The old way, this is the way we've been around for 20 years. The first 15 years we used to do this. We used to use the game engine, and there's about a dozen of them. And then on that we build like a sandcastle every day. The cloud-based components, the CAD models, the user-generated, huge work, okay? So then we scratch our head and say, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. What about if we compress all that in a platform that we do 80% of our time and do that faster, cheaper, and better? And that's what we've done. And if you're interested to learn more about this, feel free to contact me. We're working with companies around the world. We are now about to make a big investment here in Germany in a center. And I was looking now at the time. I still have a little bit of time, so I can talk a little bit about that. The global strategy. How do we are an Irvine-based US company with 42 locations around the world. And what we did, we started thinking about, what about teaching people around the world about the secrets of how to do this? So we said, let's put together some centers. And these centers will do four things. One, there will be a physical space, and this specific space is one of the 42 centers. This is 28 trucks of equipment of how you use virtual reality in the past and now, from large screen environments to headsets and all the way to mobile phones, right? Then we have a factory, and this factory doesn't produce goods, it encapsulates knowledge. You can see that here. And then on top of that, we then work in private-public partnerships with people around the globe to set those up. So, for example, here's France in that picture there. And then we also, in each location, engage with at least 100 to 200 students to educate them to become virtual reality experts. So we give for free a one-year course, 4 months theory and 8 months project-based learning to make it happen. And then, again, we partner, of course, with the big players in each location in order to execute it. So it's a big vision, but I also think to create enhanced human, it's not a small task. To date, 42 locations. We are working on 60 more locations around the globe. And we are also making sure that these centers are sustainable. So the philosophy is Human 2.0, enhanced humans. The practical means to distribute this is the AVR platform. And the boots on the ground are those centers that we are setting up everywhere. When we started with this, we were looking at 29 segments. Every year we killed a few. So now we're down to from 29 to only 6. And that's education, energy, aerospace and transportation, medical health science, manufacturing, security, and defense. And in these segments, we work, we provide, we do it very simple. We charge a small fee per worker or per student per month. So that's how we do it. And then we use these centers to duplicate things. I'll give you an example. So this is actually a union in France, and they train metallurgical workers every year, 130,000 of them. So we are helping them to take these workers and become smart workers. I'll give you a university example. This is the #1 university in Singapore. No, actually, it's in Asia. It's number 11 in the world. And we are working with them at empowering, creating 32 smart students by using this technology. And I'll give you an example from China. This is the last one. Here, the gentleman that you see here is running a company called China Merchant Group, which is the 4th largest on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, 7 trillion RMB in assets. And we're working here on the logistics side to help them with what they call One Belt, One Road, to the ability to do this all over the world. We also are very preoccupied with education. And what we discover with education, that's very difficult to do this unless you have the pedagogical aspect. So we teamed up with our chairman for EON Education. He used to run Nobel Prize Committee. His name is Bertil Anderson. And we created a group that is crossing many continents around the globe to address the pedagogical aspects and to really expand and transform education from what today is Classroom 1.0, which is the traditional way you train, where you have teachers in front of the class, to Classroom 2.0, to now Classroom 3.0. And to do that, we have this tool, and here's how it looks. So as a teacher, you can log in this tool as an admin, and you can assign different type of applications for your students. And you can also, as a teacher, build those applications yourself. So this is the PowerPoint-like environment that enables you to build VR, AR application without knowing any programming. What about refugees? What about developing areas? So we are not afraid about that. In fact, we went to Africa, South Africa, and starting setting up centers there with people that are in townships, people that have very little electricity. And in fact, the students, to get them to our center, we even have to pay the bus and their lunch. But within a period of 8 months, these students start developing application for American hospitals and got entry salaries of $80,000, which is quite amazing. We also set up centers in Middle East. So this specific center is in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And there we say, okay, let's just address women, no men, and let's make sure that we teach them and train them, these phenomenally talented ladies, to become experts in virtual reality, augmented reality. And after a while, they start developing actually applications for Aramco, safety applications, and became enormously productive. And the last example that I have is from Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. This is language learning for people in favelas. So we teamed up with the number one, or one of the leading, I should say, language learning companies in Brazil and teach those guys using VR and AR. Okay, so where are we today? Here's our location: UK, France, China. China is a big one. It's 4,000 square meters facility. Singapore, South Africa. This is the center, the one I was talking about in South Africa. And we work together with the local government there for technical vocational training skills. India, even Ethiopia, it's quite fun. Okay, so now I have 7 minutes and 5 seconds. I always get that question, where are we today and where is this going? I'll try to address that in about 3 minutes, and then I'll open up for some questions. So as Churchill said, this is not the end. This is not even the beginning of the end, but it may be the end of the beginning. I'm a veteran in this. I've been working 20 years with it, 26 years to be precise. And people ask me what I'm proud about. My proudest moment is that I survived, because unfortunately, since 1999, when we started the business, 95% of all our competitors are dead. It's a road littered with cadavers. Sorry to use that term. And we are now today, I'm like a kid in a candy store. This is the best moment of my life. Finally, virtual reality has come through. And I see a lot of people that are also gray-haired that probably been around and know what I'm talking about. So the question is, can you tell us what's going to happen in 3 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years? And the simple answer is, I have no clue. I don't know. But you can make some educated guesses. And one of them, which you see here, is that we are 2018. I see VR and AR as a bridge. You have artificial intelligence, you have big data, and then you have, in this corner, perhaps IoT. And they form like a triangle. And this is how machines communicate. They go faster and faster. There's a small problem with that. Where's the human in the loop? We are not part of this, right? So that's where augmented and virtual reality can play a huge role, at least over the next 10, 20 years until we get a neural bridge. So I see that for us, essentially what we do when we do a smart worker with glasses, AR, he has IoT on the right shoulder, he has artificial intelligence on the left, and he has above in the cloud, he has this big data. And he becomes a man and machine working together. My dream over the next 7,300 days, so if you do your math, that's 240 months or 20 years. By then I'm 76, so I'm a very old man. Am I still allowed to be around this company, sweeping the floor or doing something useful? My dream is that we can actually help humanity. And it sounds childish, it sounds naive, but I do believe that humanity is at a crossroad. You have it's like Matrix. You can choose the blue pill or the other pill. So this pill leads us to this world where humans are basically watching VR entertainment or porn and are useless. Half of the population is useless and the rest is driven by machine or displaced. That's a horrible view, and Hollywood is good at this. You saw the movie from Spielberg recently depicting that vision, right? And then you have the other world, the world that I'm subscribing to, a world where since I was a kid, we are curious. We want to do things. We want to go to the stars. We taste Earth and see it doesn't taste good. That humanity that actually sits on the shoulder of giant machines and propagates us to the future. And that's the future I believe in. That's the future I'm dedicating my life with. And fortunately, there's enough crazy people like me that want to join. So we have so far 42 governments around the world. And this is a mission. And I hope you guys join us or join your own missions in this future. And with that, 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dan, thank you so much for inspiring us. I appreciate it. I think we have maybe a minute for a question or two. If there are any questions in the audience, we'd love to address them now. Enhanced humans. This is your chance to talk about the future with an expert, the real future of you.
No questions?
Well, I have one, if I may.
Okay.
So you said 20 years from now, you are envisioning that we're helping humanity with this. How?
You know, what you look at the picture is not anymore there. So the first thing that's going to happen, you can see these glasses. They are coming up, Magic Leap and others. These glasses will be thinner and easier to use. And what's going to happen is they are linked with the cloud, right? So you think this phone is indispensable? If I take it away for you, you feel a bit lost? You're going to have a psychosis if I remove your glasses because it will be totally interlinked with it. It will help you to keep your schedule. It will help you to know what to do. It will tell you when you do mistakes. It's a part of our life, right? And you can think that, some people think, oh, that's scary, that's no good. It's the contrary. We become more efficient. We can spend more time with our kids and do things that are important. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.